Okay, in this section, we will learn how to factor a polynomial by grouping and spatial forms. Okay, example one is, okay, this is very simple one. So let's factor this polynomial. So in order to factor this polynomial, we have to find the greatest common factor, the common factor which is the largest one. So 24, okay, 24 can be 24. Let's find the common factor of these two numbers, 24 and 32. As you can see here, 2 it can be a common factor because 2 can divide these two numbers. Or okay, 4 also can be a common factor because 4 can divide these two. And is there any larger number, larger common factor? Okay, how about 8? 8 can divide 24 and 32. And is there any common factor that is greater than 8 for these two numbers? No, this is the largest one. So 8 is the common factor, greatest common factor. Or you can find the greatest common factor by rewriting the numbers in a product of primes. So 24 is 2 times 12, and then 12 is 2 times 6, 6 is 2 times 3. So we can write 24 as 2 cubed times 3. And 32 is 2 times 16, 16 is 2 times 8, 2 times 4, 2 times 2. So 2 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 to the 5th power. Okay, then from these two, we can find the GCF. The GCF, the common factor, which is the largest one, is the product of each factor, each common factor. So 2 is a common factor. And from this one, there are 3 of them. Here there are 5 of them. So the common factor will be 2 times 2 times 2. So we will select a factor, common factor which has the largest exponent. The smallest exponent. So the factor 2 has power, the exponent is 3, and this one is 5. So the common factor is this one. So 2 cubed is the GCF, which is 8. So we can find GCF by rewriting the numbers in a product of primes. Then select the common factor which has the smallest exponent. So the common factor, the greatest common factor for these two numbers is 8. And how about x? Okay, this is x cubed, x squared. So we select, x is a common factor, we select the smallest exponent, it's x squared. So we can factor out 8x squared and then put parentheses. Then write the missing factor. So in order to make 24, 8 times 3 is 24. So 24 is 8 times 3. So 8 is factored out, 3 stays inside. Okay, how about x cubed? X cubed is x squared times x. So x squared went out, factored out, so x is the leftover. So write down 3x. Okay, minus 32 is the same. 8 times what is 32? 4, right? So 4 times 8 is 32, and x squared went out. This x squared is factored out. So we have negative 4. So this is actually 8 times 4 times x squared. So 8 and x squared factors are factored out, and 4 is the leftover. So we can write it as this. Just like distribution property. Once we multiply these two, we must have 24x cubed. Multiply these two, then we must have minus 32x squared. Okay, so this is the factor form. Okay, let's try next one. Okay, when we factor a trinomial and the leading coefficient of this polynomial is negative 3. So once we have a negative 3 as a leading coefficient, then we usually factor out negative as well. So the common factor is, in this case, 3. So we will factor out with the negative sign because the leading coefficient is negative. So we can factor it out, negative 3 out, and then x squared parenthesis x squared. Since we factor out the negative, we have to change the sign of each term. So 3 times 4 is 12x. Because once we multiply negative, it becomes positive. So we have to change the sign of each term. So negative 18 becomes plus 18, but since 3 is out, 18 is 3 times 6. So 6 is the leftover. Okay, so in this case, we factored out negative 3. But what if we factor out positive 3? If we factor out positive 3, then it is negative x squared plus 4x minus 6. So actually, if we compare these two, the inside has different signs. So basically, we usually factor out the negative if the leading coefficient is negative. So like this. Okay, this is an exercise number 8 on page 256. Okay, I want to factor this, so we have to write this in standard form. So the term with the largest exponent comes first. So let's rewrite the order of the terms. So the largest exponent term comes first, and plus 9x minus 24. As you can see here, the leading coefficient is negative. So we can factor out negative with the greatest common factor. And the GCF is 3. So negative 3. Factor out negative 3, then 3x squared. Because since we took the negative sign, we have to make it positive. Change the sign. And this 9x becomes minus 9x. Plus 20, minus 21 becomes plus. And 24. Okay, 24 is 3 times 8. So 3 went out, and factor 8 stays there. Okay, that's like this. Okay, in this example 3, here is a rectangle, and the width is given. The width is 4x. The width of the expression of the width is 4x. And also the area of this rectangle is given. So the area is 12x squared. 12x squared plus 32x. And then the question is find the length. Okay, since the area is given, we can write area formula first, and the area for the expression is this. So the area formula is area is length times width. Area is the length times the width. So the area expression is given. The expression is 2x squared plus 32x. And this is equal to length times the width. The length is this, the width is 4x. 4x. So in order to find x, find the length, we can factor the left-hand side. So if one of the factor is 4x, then the other factor is the expression for the length. So let's factor the area expression. So 12x squared plus 32x, the common factor is 6. 6 is not a common factor, so 4 can divide 12 and 32. So probably 4 is the common factor. So factor out 4 and then the variable x. So 4x, then 3x plus, 32 is 4 times 8. And x went out. So in this case, 3x plus 8, there is no common factor. So that's it. And then let's compare this with the expression on the right side of the equation. Here is 4x, here is 4x. So the length should be this expression. So the length of the rectangle is 3x plus 8. So what we did is we just factor this so that one of the factor is 4x same as the one on the right. Then the other factor is the expression for the length. Okay, now letter B is find the dimension of the rectangle when x is 4 inches. Then, the dimension is the length by the width. So since we have the x value, let's plug it in the L and the W. So W is 4x. So the L is 3x plus 8. Then x equals 3. X equals 4. So L equals 12 plus 8. L equals 20. And the width is 4x. 4 times 4 is 16. So the width is 16. So the dimension is L is 20 and width is 16. So 20 by 16 inches. So the dimension is 20 by 16 inches. 20 inches by 16 inches. Okay, in this example 4, this expression has the common factor, but the common factor is a binomial. So look at this. The first expression is 5x squared times a parenthesis. This parenthesis is 6x minus 5, and the second expression also has 6x minus 5 with parenthesis. So this is binomial. We can assume this is one big expression. So we can actually factor out this binomial. So factor out 6x minus 5 with the parenthesis all together. Then multiply by parenthesis and write the leftover factors. 5x squared minus 2. Like this. So it doesn't matter whether a factor is binomial or trinomial. If that one exists in each term, then we can factor it out because it's a common factor. Okay, in this example 5, we will try something like similar step with as the previous example. So, there are 4 terms. There is no common factors, and then there are 4 terms. Then we can try grouping. So we call this factoring by grouping. Okay, this is called factoring by grouping. So I'm going to make a group of the first 2 terms and a group of the last 2 terms and see what happens. Okay, from this, the first 2 groups, first group, okay, the first 2 terms have a common factor, which is x squared. Then we can write it as x squared times x minus 5. Okay, plus the last 2 terms is one group, so we can put as one group, x minus 5. Then, just like the previous example, there is a binomial, same binomial in the first term and the second term. So why don't we factor out this common factor? So x minus 5 is a common factor. So factor out x minus 5, parenthesis, write the missing factors in each term. So x squared plus, okay, once we factor this out, this is equal to 1 times something. So 1 stays there. So this is the factor form. Okay, let's try next one. Okay, in this example, there is no common factor. There are 4 terms, but there's no common factor. So let's try factoring this by grouping. So make a group of the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms. Okay, from the first 2 terms, the common factor is x. So factor out x, then the first term will be 4x squared. So make sure the product is same as 4x cubed. Okay, plus 3. And from the last two terms, we can factor out negative 2 because this is negative. So basically, we have to have this factor as a common factor. So let's factor out negative 2. Then 4x squared plus 3. Make sure the product is negative 8 squared and this one is negative 6. Okay, so we have a factor. If it's factorable, then we must have same binomial as a common factor in the second group. Okay, so 4x squared plus 3 is a common factor. So factor that binomial out. Parenthesis, write the missing factors, the leftover factors. So x minus 2. And okay, also make sure that each factor is a prime, not factorable. Then we are done. So this is not factorable, this is not factorable, so done. Okay, this example is really important because there is an expression which is the difference of two squares. Okay, difference of two squares means, let's say here's an a squared and b squared. Then the difference is minus. So a squared minus b squared. And then we can factor this one. Then the factor form is a plus b, a minus b. This is used a lot of times, so many times. So we have to memorize this. Difference of two squares. So there is a minus, and the two terms are squares, each other, squares. A squared minus b squared. Then what? The factor form is one is plus, one is minus. So a plus b, a minus b. A plus b, a minus b. Don't forget, it's really important. So let's check this. X squared minus 64, and this is minus, and the first term is squared. Then let's check if the second term is also squared. Then 64 is 8 squared. This is 8 squared. This is the difference of squares. Then what we do is, okay, the base of the first term is x, the base of the second term is 8. So the result will be a plus b, a minus b. X plus 8 times x minus 8. So this is the factor form. It's really simple. So whenever we have something squared minus, let's say moon squared, then this is equal to star plus moon times parenthesis star minus moon, something like this. It's really simple. Okay, we don't have to worry about the expression of the star and the moon. Just put this whole star and the whole moon as a product. So star plus moon times star minus moon. Okay, let's try another one. So if this is a binomial, then make sure each term is a squared. It can be squared. Okay, so 49 is 9 squared. Okay, do you remember this one? Okay, let's say ab squared is equal to a squared times b squared. A squared times b squared. So if you go from right to left, so the first factor is something squared and the second factor is something squared. So both factors is a squared. Then you can put the bases together, a times b, like this. So 49x squared is 49 is 7 squared. And then x squared minus 81 is 9 squared, y squared. So each factor is squared. So we can put the bases together. 7x squared minus 9y squared. Because 7x squared is 7 squared is 49, x squared is x squared. So this is 49 squared. And the second term is 9 times 9 is 81, y squared. So we made this one difference. So if it is binomial, always check whether this expression satisfies the difference of two squares. So this is the difference of two squares. So we can write star plus moon times star minus moon. So this is the star, 9y is the moon. So 7x plus 9y times 7x minus 9y. Done. Very simple. So always make sure if the binomial satisfies the difference of two squares. Okay, this example, okay, this is a binomial, minus, and then something squared and 9. So if this minus, then let's check whether this is a difference of squares. So the first term is a squared. So the first one is a square, and the second term is 9. 9 is also 3 squared. So this satisfies the difference of two squares. Then what do we do? Star plus moon, star minus moon. So in this case, the star is the base, x plus 2. So x plus 2 plus the moon. And then star, which is x plus 2, minus the moon. Okay, star plus moon, star minus moon. Then simplify each factor, the parenthesis, then x plus 5, x minus 1. So this is the simplified factor form. Okay, let's try exercise 38. Okay, this is difference of two squares. So we can factor this one using the difference of two squares formula. So the star part is 3y minus 1, and the moon is x plus 6. So the factor is star plus moon times star minus moon. Star is 3y minus 1 plus x plus 6 times star, which is 3x minus 1, minus x plus 6. So x plus 6, we need to put the parenthesis because x minus 6 is a moon. This whole expression is a moon. So minus the whole expression, x plus 6. And then simplify each parenthesis, 3y. Okay, here it is. Let me write the x first, so plus x, and then combine these two numbers, plus 5. And for this one, 3y minus 1. Okay, we gotta distribute this parenthesis, so negative x, negative 6. Then 3y plus x plus 5. And from the right parenthesis is 3y minus x. Then combine the constants, so negative 1 minus 6 is negative 7. So this is the factor form. Okay, let's check the property of these four. The formulas for these four. Okay, there are four types. Okay, the first one is the difference of squares. So we can factor the difference of squares. So a squared minus b squared is a plus b, a minus b. Okay, the second one is sum of squares. So a squared plus b squared. This is not factorable. Okay, a squared plus b squared is not factorable. We call it a prime. So make sure that a squared plus b squared is not factorable. But a cube plus b cube is factorable. Okay, this is called the sum of cubes. This is the sum of two cubes. Okay, sum of cubes. This is factorable. So that means, okay, this is equal to a plus b. Just like a squared minus b squared, we have a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. It's kind of tough to memorize, but let's check. Okay, without the power, write a plus b. Write only the base, a plus b. And then the second parenthesis is a squared minus ab. In order to make a cube, we have to multiply these two. Then it becomes a cube. Even b cubed is the same. The last term is b times b squared is b cubed. So we have a squared, b squared. And the second term in the second parenthesis is just ab. Multiply the two bases, ab. Then the sign is a cubed plus b cubed. Then a plus b, same sign. This is the same sign. And the second term in the second parenthesis, this is different sign. Different sign. Okay. So when we factor the sum of two cubes is a plus b times, there are three terms in the second parenthesis, a squared minus ab, different sign as this one, minus ab plus b squared. Okay, even the next one, this is third formula, fourth formula. A cube minus b cube is a minus b, same sign as this, a minus b, same sign. And then the second factor is a squared, different sign, plus ab, and then plus b squared. Okay, so this is really important, very important formula. So please memorize this. Then using this formula, let's try some examples. Okay, so the first example is x cubed minus 125. So this is a binomial with the minus. And then the first one is a cubed. So if this satisfies the difference of two cubes, then we will use the formula, number 3 formula. So the first one is x cubed minus 125 is 5 cubed. 5 cubed. So this is in the difference of two cubes form. Then let's use the formula. So here is the base x and the 5. So write down x minus 5, parenthesis. The first one squared, different sign, so plus, and then multiply two bases, x and 5, so 5x, plus square the second base, 5 squared, 25. So we got the answer, the factor, we factored right away using the formula. Okay, the second expression is, this is binomial also, and then plus, and the first one is cubed, y cubed. But let's check this 8. If 8 is also cubed, then the first term can be written as something cubed. So 8 is 2 cubed. Okay, write it as this one. Okay, 2 cubed times y cubed plus 1 is, 1 can be any power. So 1 to the 1 cube is also 1. So we can write it as cubed because the first term is a cube. So 8 is 2 cube, 8 is 2 cube. And since this is cube is multiplied together, so we can put 2y as one base. So 2y cubed is 8y cubed plus 1 cubed. So this is the sum of two cubes. So let's use the formula, number 3 formula. The first one is number 4 formula, sorry. Difference of cubes. Okay, and this expression is sum of two cubes. So write down the first and the second base. So 2y plus 1, parenthesis, the first base squared. So 2y squared. 2y squared is 2y squared. So that will be 4y squared. Change the sign. This is plus, so make it minus. And then multiply 2y and 1. 2y and 1. So that is 2y. Plus the second part squared. 1 squared is 1. So done. Simple. Okay, let's try letter C. Letter C is y cubed. The first part is cube, binomial, and cube, subtraction. So we may think of the difference of cubes, number 4. Then 27 is 3 cubed. 27 is 3 cubed, right? 27 is 3 cubed. So we can write the second term as, okay, 3 cubed, let me write 3 cubed x cubed. Then rewrite it. So 3y cubed minus 3x cubed. Then use the formula. So y, the first one is y. The second part is 3x. So y plus 3x. Multiply by the first one squared. So y squared. Change the sign. This is minus. Okay, so y minus 3x, and they change the sign so it becomes plus the first part, second part. Multiply y and 3x. So 3xy plus the second part squared. 3x squared is 9x squared. Parenthesis. So this is the factored form. Okay, in this example, we will factor this expression completely. So when you factor completely, we must have, each factor has to be a prime. If a factor is not prime, then we have to factor it again. So in this case, what is the common factor? Okay, always find the common factor. No matter what, find the common factor. So here's the number 125 and 80. A common factor, it looks like 5. Okay, let's take out 5. And then 25 x squared minus 16. Okay, then let's check this one. Okay, 5 times this binomial. And let's check whether we can factor this. Okay, 25x squared minus 16. For the numbers, there's no common factor, but this is binomial and the minus x is squared. So we can think of the difference of squares. So if we can write this binomial as difference of squares, then we can apply that formula. So 25 is 5 squared. So 25x squared. Then 25 is 5 squared, x squared. So both squared, so we can put 5 and x together, 5x squared. So once we distribute this, then it's 25x squared. So the first part is 5x squared minus 16 is 4 squared. 4 squared. Let me use a bracket because I used 5x here. Okay. Then the second, then this binomial is a difference of squares, so we can use the difference squares formula. Okay, a squared minus b squared. Then this is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So let's use this formula. So 5 times. Okay, 5x is the part A, 4 is the part B. So we can write it a plus b. So 5x plus 4 times 5x minus 4. 5x minus 4. And then, of course, each factor is prime, so we are done. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, this is exercise number 51. So let's factor this binomial. Okay, first of all, this is plus and this is cube. So we can try to use sum of cubes. But before we use it, we can factor out 8 because 8 is a common factor. Then 64 is 8 times 8. Okay, then this is equal to, okay, this parenthesis, the binomial can be written as sum of cubes because the first one is cube, the second one 8 is also 2 cube. So we can apply the sum of cubes formula. Okay, the sum of cubes is what? A cube plus b cube is a plus b times a squared, change the sign, and then ab plus b squared. So we will use this formula. Okay, 8 times x plus 2, and then the first part squared, so a squared, change the sign, minus ab, x times 2, so 2x, plus 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. Like this. Okay, what if we didn't factor out? What if we just use the difference of cubes? Because, the sum of cubes. Because 8 is 2 squared, so we can write this one as 2x cubed, and 64 is 4 cubed. 4 cubed. Then this satisfies the sum of 2 cubes. So we can apply the sum of cubes formula. So 2x, a plus b, so 2x plus 4 times a squared, so 4x squared minus, change the sign, minus 2x times 4, so 8x plus b squared. So 4 squared is 16. Then as you can see here is a common factor. Also here is a common factor. So we can factor out from this one, we can factor out 2, then x plus 2. Okay, from here we can factor out 4, then 4x squared minus 2x plus 4. Then when we simplify this, 2 times 4 is 8. So 8 times x plus 2, 4x squared minus 2x. Okay, once we factor out 4, this is just x squared. Okay, so write down this parenthesis, x squared minus 2x plus 4. So finally, we have the same answer as this. Same answer. So if there is a common factor, then factor out first. So it's much easier. Otherwise, we have, it takes more, more time and more steps if we didn't factor out at the beginning, because we have to check each factor is a prime or not. If it's not, then we have to factor it again. But anyway, we get the same answer as long as we factor completely. Okay, let's try this example. Okay, the first one is difference of fourth power. Okay, we don't have a rule for the fourth power, but we have a square or cube. So why don't we rewrite this expression in difference of squares? Okay, difference of squares, because this power is 4 is 2 times 2. So we can rewrite it as x squared minus y squared. So power of another power is multiply 2 powers, exponents. 2 times 2 is 4. So this is okay, right? So this expression is now difference of 2 squares. Then we can write it as a plus b, a minus b. So x squared and y squared. So a is x squared, so a is x squared plus y squared times x squared minus y squared. Okay, and then we have to check each factor whether it's a prime. The sum of squares, this is a prime, not factorable. But the second factor, second parenthesis is difference of squares. So we can factor this one again. Then x squared plus y squared times x plus y, x minus y. Then each factor is prime, so done. Okay, so make sure if this is not a square or cubes, then convert it into squares or cubes. Okay, how about this one? This binomial is fourth power. So, and this minus, and one can be square or cube. So since this is m to the fourth power, we can try to make it a square. So 981 is 9 squared. 9 squared. And m to the fourth power is m squared and another square. And 1 is a square. So this is equal to 9. Okay, the base is 9. Okay, square and square. Square and square. So 9 and m squared. We can put this 9 and m squared together as one base. 9m squared minus 1 squared. So once you distribute this power to each 9 and m squared, it is 9 squared is 81, m squared raised to the second power is m to the first power. So this is correct. And 1 can be any power, so 1 to 1 squared. So this expression is difference of two squares. So we can use difference of two squares form. A plus b, a minus b. So a part is 9m squared. So 9m squared plus 1, 9m squared minus 1. And then let's check each factor. So this first parenthesis is sum of squares, 9m squared plus 1 square. This is prime. But the second parenthesis is another difference of squares. So if we rewrite it, it looks like this. Okay, 3m squared is, 9m squared is, 9 is 3 squared. So we can write it as 3m squared minus 1 squared. Okay, so the second part is difference of two squares. So we can use the formula a plus b, a minus b. 3m plus 1, 3m minus 1. 3m plus 1, 3m minus 1. And then finally, each factor is a prime, so we are done. Okay, as a summary of this section, okay, we can use a factor by grouping. If there are 4 terms like this, 4 terms, then we can put the first 2 terms as one group and second 2 terms, the last 2 terms as the second group. Then it must have, if it's factorable, that it should have the same binomial common factors. Okay, the next one is we can factor the binomial if it is in these four types. Okay, the first one is the difference of squares. Difference of square, difference of two squares. Then the factor form is a plus b times a minus b. Okay, the second part is this is the sum of squares. Then this is prime, not factorable. Not factorable. And the third one is the sum of cubes. Then the sum of cube is a plus b times a squared, change the sign, ab plus b squared. Okay, the last one is difference of two cubes. Then a minus b, change the sign, a squared, change the sign, plus ab plus b squared. Same sign, change the sign. Same sign, change the sign. Okay, so it's important to memorize this formula.